I was with one of my best friends from college, who I still know, who can verify what happened. He and I both living, working, going to school in Atlanta area at the time, and decided to take a long weekend trip down to Florida, planning on going to the Gulf Coast a bit, but not quite as far as Tampa. We were traveling on I-75 in my 1967 VW Squareback, with me doing all the driving. At some point, we saw two young hitchhikers, a male and a female, and stopped to pick them up. They said they were on their way to Florida from somewhere in upstate New York. The ride began very uneventfully, with us making a bit of small talk with them, but eventually them in the back and us in the front engaged in our own conversations, or just engaged in silent reflection. It began to get dark. I could see the outline of their heads and shoulders in my rearview mirror. Then at some point, I noticed that they seemed to be arguing, even though they were keeping their voices fairly quiet and were not shouting. Even a VW Squareback was a small car, and it's impossible to hide what's going on in such close quarters. I thought it was incredibly rude for a guest to be arguing in someone else's car. I tried to ignore it. At some point, I noticed in the rearview mirror that he appeared to be raising his fist. I could also feel that there appeared to be some jostling around or pushing or struggling that alarmed me, but I didn't say anything. Before long, we had to stop for gas and a bathroom break. I pulled into a small truck stop and filled the tank up. Then I pulled into a parking area, and we all got out of the car to go inside and use the facilities. Who the fuck says facilities? My friend went with the young man into the men's restroom, and I went with the girl into the women's restroom. I should interject here that this was the first time I really got a good look at them. Under the lights of the store, I realized that they were both younger than I had originally estimated, which I took to be 18 to 20 years old. Upon closer inspection, it seemed that the girl was maybe 14 or 15, and the guy was maybe 16 or 17. In other words, they were minors. So immediately after we entered the women's room, the girl took me by the arm. "You have to fucking help me." "What?" "Sure, what's going on?" "You have to help me get away from that fucking guy." "Okay, tell me about it." "Him and I were both in a facility for teenagers in minor trouble with the law. Some sort of residential detention center. A halfway house or group home or some shit. He told me he had a brother with a farm nearby, upstate New York, and we could go there. So we ran away. It turns out that his brother didn't live there, but he took me to some random farm and raped me in the fucking barn." My brain exploded, and I was just like, what the fuck? As I was thinking of something to say, the girl began to speak again. "He then fucking told me that his brother was actually in Florida, and that we should go there. So that's what we are doing." I don't believe he has a fucking brother in Florida either. I don't want to be with him. I want to go back. I told him that, and that's what we're arguing about." How the fuck did I get dragged into this fucking shit? Okay, stay here. Don't leave the bathroom until you hear from me. I'll figure this fucking shit out. I walked out of the women's bathroom and saw my friend and the teenage boy just hanging out, waiting for us. I went up to my friend and pulled him aside so the boy could not hear me. "Listen, Shut the fuck up. Don't ask any questions. Just go out to the car and get all of your goddamn belongings out and just hang out somewhere and wait until you hear back from me. The reason I told him to get his belongings out of the car is that I figured he might have some pot packed away. I didn't want to risk a search of our car uncovering anything illegal in the event that the cops got involved in what was about to come down. I didn't know if we were dealing with a potential kidnapping or runaway teens, but I knew that something bad was going on. When I gave my friend these instructions, he naturally looked totally confused, but he did what I asked him to. In the meantime, the teenage boy was just hanging out against the wall. I wondered about him. I worried that he would get suspicious about what was going on and whatever, act in some sort of rash or violent manner, but he just continued to hang out against the wall. Then I quickly surveyed the rest of the situation. I saw that there was a hostess cashier at a podium in the restaurant part of the truck stop. I calmly walked to speak to her. Don't look over that way now, but there is a teenage boy standing over against the wall. He was traveling with a younger girl who is now in the women's restroom. The girl told me that the boy forced her to travel with him and that they are runaways from sort of residential center in New York. She does not want to be with him. They both appear to be minors, and I need to get them some help. The hostess, look, okay, there's happens to be some goddamn Georgia troopers over there eating in the restaurant right now, over in the corner. I think you should probably go talk to them about your little problem or whatever. I ain't got time for this shit. I need a cigarette. I casually looked around and spotted the troopers. I calmly walked over to their table and sat down with them. I quickly introduced myself and explained the basic details of the situation. I verified the location and identity of the teenage boy and told them that the girl was in the ladies' room and what she looked like. I made zero mention of the friend who was traveling with me. The trooper replied, "Do you have anything in the car?" What? No. Do you have any of the possessions of the two kids in your car? No, they didn't leave anything in the car. Okay, here's what you can do. I want you to get up and walk to the door. When you get there, don't stop. Don't talk to the boy or anything else. Just leave, get in your car, and take the fuck off. So I stood up and did as he told me. The troopers fell into position like they were guarding me on all sides as we walked to the door. As we neared the boy, he did seem a bit confused as he saw me walking with the troopers on all sides of me, but he just continued to stand there. As I felt the building, I saw my friend standing outside, off to the side, with his possessions. I told him not to ask any questions, but to just get in the car with me. We would leave, which is what he did. I then explained to him everything that had happened with me and the girl and the whole thing. Something that he would, of course, known nothing about, other than when I told him to get his shit out of my goddamn car and just lay low till I told him otherwise. I have no idea what happened after I left. I am assuming that the troopers took the two teens into custody and tried to sort it out. I was really surprised at the time that the troopers just wanted me to leave and not hang around so they could get more info from me or look at my identification or the like. Just leaving was fine by me. I knew that for sure I did not want my friend to get involved and possibly get into trouble for possessing drugs. I will never know the whole story, of course. I believe that the girl was possibly mostly telling me the truth, that they were runaways. She was too young and too frightened for it to be otherwise. Plus, what she told me basically meshed with what I had observed, them arguing, him raising his fist, etc. Whether or not the boy would have actually harmed her or not, if she cried out or spoke up, who knows? I don't know if the part about them being from the juvenile detention center or group home or whatever was the truth. I went to Livestock one year. Livestock is this event that is held every year by my local radio station in the Tampa Bay area. The event is held by 98 Rock. I won tickets to go there to see my favorite band that year. I was in the mosh pit and I was having a great time. I happened to look over to my right and there was this blonde chick and she was being surrounded by a bunch of dudes. And they would not leave her alone or let her out of the area. They kept pushing her back into the circle and she was screaming and crying, but no one could hear her screams for help either because everyone was too focused on the music or they were high as a goddamn kite. Drug use is rampant at these events. She fell down on the ground. Then two guys held her down. One held her feet, and the other held her arms above her head. And then they mounted her, and well, you already know what happened. I watched in horror as I screamed at the top of my lungs that someone was being raped. A few women turned around, and then this mean-looking biker woman in her late 40s came barreling through the crowd and stabbed one of the perverted fucks in the stomach. The men took off running. A few weeks go by, and I'm just chilling at home, and then I get a phone call. I answer the phone, and I could hear what sounded like an artificial voice.
You think you can stick your nose in my business and get away with it?
I immediately hung up the goddamn phone and locked my doors, and called 911. 911 emergency, how may I help you? I just got a threatening phone call. I think someone is after me, I answered. We'll send a police officer to your location. I explained the situation to the police officers when they arrived, and the police watched from the outside for a few days. I figured that this was the end of it, but after the police decided I no longer needed their protection, I got another phone call. Why did you call the cops, you fucking bitch? The voice said again, this time with no voice changer. I went to reply back to the creepy bastard, and he hung up the phone. I immediately left and went a few blocks down the road to my local Walmart and purchased a hunting rifle because there was no hold on rifles. I would have preferred a handgun like a Glock, but I couldn't take the risk of waiting for a background check and all of that shit to clear. I took my hunting rifle home with me, and I snuck the gun in the house inside of a guitar bag in case the creepy pervert was watching my house. As I was loading my hunting rifle, the news came on the air, and the reporters started talking about a serial rapist on the loose. I began to panic, and then my fears were confirmed when the reporter showed a picture of the guy. It was the same fucking guy from the concert. Also, apparently the guy was wanted for murder as well because I guess his partner developed a fucking conscience and was going to turn himself in and also turn in the other guy. A police officer got on the news and said they found notes confirming this. I heard glass break from the upstairs, and I knew what was about to happen. I saw the shadow of a man with a large hunting knife in his hand, and I fired the rifle, and then the man took off and left again. I called the police. and told them that the guy broke into my house. Police swarmed the neighborhood like locusts, and neighbors were all out in the streets terrified and on edge. Fathers enraged with fists clenching, mothers with tears in their eyes. Most of the children didn't understand what was going on, but the teenagers, however, were aware of what was happening. They began calling their friends and organizing witch hunts, as teens do. Most teenagers have that gang mentality, where they want to hunt someone down. The teens made it clear to each other that they were just going to capture the guy and not try and kill him, even though many of them felt it was justified if they did. Several hours went by, and nothing happened. The police did not find the suspect, and neither did the mob of angry and scared teenagers. I went back into the house and got ready for bed when I got another phone call. "You may have won this time, but I will fuck you, and you will enjoy it, just like that bitch from the concert enjoyed it." I slammed the phone down and broke down into tears as I slid my back down the wall. I heard my window from my bedroom open. I sat there frozen, not moving. At this point, I was no longer scared. I was fed up with this. I wanted this to end. I waited. The creepy guy casually walked down the stairs with a hunting knife in his hand, peeled the curtain back with his blade. The flash of red and blue shined through the window. He locked eyes with me and slowly walked towards me, laughing. He could not see the gun. As he got closer, he pulled his penis out and began to jerk himself off. "I've waited long enough for you," he said. "Come and get me, baby," I said as he walked closer. I then picked up my hunting rifle and fired at him, shooting him in the chest. He died on impact. The police busted through the door and saw the man lying dead on the ground. I sat there and cried as police officers called a coroner and tried to comfort me. I was in shock. I've never killed anyone. I was both relieved that it was finally over, but also had a weird sense of guilt and remorse for killing someone. I had to go to therapy for a few years after that, even though I had to kill a man that wanted to harm me, and that already possibly destroyed the lives of many others. I'm not a killer. I'm not brave or anything like that. I'm like many other people who have been to war and survived. I'm broken and haunted by the things that I had to do to survive. Earlier today, I was on a walk with my daughter. The area we walk runs next to a river, and at one point you can turn off onto a boardwalk that winds through a marshy area. It's really pretty, and I like it a lot, or I used to until today. The windy boardwalk has little areas to the side with benches where people can sit and enjoy nature. As I'm walking with my daughter, we approach one of those areas, and there's this guy wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a mask, standing there with his hands on his crotch, kind of hiding behind the railing. Then as soon as no one else is around, the guy steps out into the walkway and begins strutting towards me. He was walking real macho, and with his crotch forward, possibly flaunting the huge erection he had, which his tiny gym shorts did not fucking hide at all. I was creeped the fuck out, especially being there with my 3-year-old daughter, so I said nothing and walked as fast as I could in the opposite direction of him. I'm really perplexed and weirded the fuck out by what I saw. If he didn't want anyone to see that he had a boner, I feel like he would have waited till I passed, because there wasn't anyone immediately behind me, so I think my daughter and I were just victims of some creepy motherfucker discreetly exposing himself. Not going on walks there anymore. This happened when I was 17 years old. I live in New York City. I was with my best friend that night and we were coming home from work on the F train to Brooklyn. We used to work for a moving company while in high school, and we would do night jobs, which was great money back then for two 17-year-old kids. Well, as we were riding the train back home, the train was pretty empty because, if I remember, it was around 12:30 a.m. So we were sitting and we were pretty tired. I look up to see an old man, say in his late 50s, staring at me. I hate to be stared at because, to me, you're looking for a problem. Ooh, such a fucking badass. It wasn't the look like maybe I know you. It was a deep stare. So I put my head down, and I am getting pissed off. I look up again. I am now fuming, but I don't say a word. I don't know why you're mad about this. I would just be really fucking grossed out. As our stop approached, I tell my friend when we stop, just hold the train doors. He said, why? I said, just do it. He knew I was going to do something. So we approach our stop. The doors open and my friend does exactly what I said. So I get up, and mind you now, I am wearing those Timberland work boots that were so popular in the 90s. I grab the railing directly above his head by his seat with two hands and just kick him right in his face with both feet. Wow, that sounds like fucking assault and battery. I didn't even look to see what he looked like. I am sure he needed a dentist after that. Think he learned his lesson that night. Me and my friend, when we got together after all the years, always have a huge laugh about that night. Okay, there is something seriously fucking wrong with this story. Look, I understand the guy was jacking off in the fucking train, but what you did is assault and battery, which is also illegal. Like, you could easily fucking kill someone by kicking them in the face with your boots. And honestly, this is not something to laugh and joke about with your friends, and it's not something to be fucking proud of. If you want to be a goddamn hero and tackle perverts and rapists and whatnot, become a goddamn cop. Don't go around assaulting people. You may think that you're some kind of fucking vigilante, but one day you're gonna go to jail. So this happened back in 2017. I was feeling lonely and depressed after my then girlfriend at the time broke up with me for whatever the fuck reason. Anyway, that's not why we are here. I couldn't care less where or what the hell she is doing. So I met this hot blonde woman on Tinder. She seemed really sweet, and we hit it off nicely. She and I liked the same music, and like to do a lot of the same things, so I thought I'd hit the jackpot. This was my hopes and dreams come true. This was everything that I had been praying for, and I was relieved that finally, after 2 years of asking God to bless me with someone, He'd finally answered my miserable prayers. Boy, was I about to find out just how fucking wrong I was. The woman's name was Megan. Megan liked trap music and drill rap. Her favorite rappers were King Yella and Slim Jesus. She loved the song Drill Time and said that she wanted to be a female drill rapper. I thought that was tight. I was kinda into Chicago drill myself. But I also preferred regular rap music. I liked Tom MacDonald, Megan and I discussed our hatred for other types of music and our love for coming-of-age films like 16 Candles, 10 Things I Hate About You, and The Breakfast Club, etc. Megan and I met shortly after talking for a while and went on our first date, and she wanted to smash on the first date. I was a little bit concerned that she was so willing to fuck on the first date. I didn't think she was a whore or anything. I just kinda found it a little jarring and unattractive that she was willing to hop in bed with a total stranger like that. I expressed that I wanted something more than just sex, and that I wanted to wait a bit. Megan scoffed at this and said that I was a little bitch, and then started talking about all the guys that she had had sex with, and started making fun of me and saying that I had a small cock, etc. I screamed at her and told her to stop talking shit, and that there was nothing wrong with not wanting to fuck on the first date. If the roles were reversed and I was pressuring her and she had said no, I would have had to respect her decision. She just rolled her eyes and proceeded to text on her phone. I woke up to knocking at my door at 3 a.m. and there were 3 guys outside my door. "Where Megan at, bruh?" One of the men asked. Who the fuck are you?" I replied. The other 2 men forced their way through the door, and Megan came out of the shower with just a towel, and the men pulled out whiskey and cocaine, and Megan and the 3 men just had a party without any concern for me. The 3 men then had sex with Megan. I was in shock. One of the men then looked at me and tried to force me to give him a blowjob, while the other 2 and Megan just kept chanting, "Suck it! Suck it!" I refused to, and the creepy guy got tired of trying and then punched me in the nose, and they poured whiskey all over me and kicked me and punched me while they continued to party. Megan then taunted me by saying shit like, "This is fun, isn't it, baby? Come on, baby, get up and party with us," as she cackled. Every time I started to try to get up off of the ground back to my feet, the men would take turns kicking and punching me. I really thought that I was going to die. After 3 hours of being tortured and watching Megan and the 3 scumbags take turns fucking and her sucking them off, they all left. Megan, you stupid fucking bitch, I hope that you get what is coming to you. If you haven't already, I hope that you go to prison, you evil bitch. This happened when I was 21. She was 24 and had a boy about 2 years old. She was basically normal, had a good job, took care of the kid okay. She was kind of a dim bulb, though. Not very bright. I was bored in the relationship and really didn't want to become stepdad to the kid, so I ended it. No problem. Run into her a month later or so at the bar, and we end up going back to her place for a night of sex. Next morning, she makes coffee and breakfast. I go to school, she goes to work. I get incredibly sick on the way to school, throw up multiple times, make it to the school still puking, find my nurse medical office, and vaguely recall being loaded into an ambulance. Come to in the hospital, a doctor tells me that I OD'd on an enormous amount of methamphetamine and had about 5 minutes left to live before they figured it out. Oh, by the way, there were some federal agents here to talk to you. Turns out she had planned this whole thing and decided that if she couldn't have me, no one could. Sorry to bust your bubble there, bruh, but I'm pretty sure that she didn't want you as bad as you think she did. Anyway, she went to jail, but got a reduced sentence for turning on the family member that was making and distributing the methamphetamine. I was friends with this one girl for a very long time. We used to hang out together a lot, and then one day, we all went our separate ways. As what usually happens as you get older, people drift apart and move on with their lives. Anyway, one day I was on Facebook, I saw her name pop up, and I sent her a friend request, and we started talking again. I was very happy. I started to have old feelings crop up, and I started fantasizing about dating her and all of that stupid shit. I'm a fucking loser, so my mind and heart are prone to flights of imaginations and hallucinations. I woke up one morning and happened to look on Facebook, and I saw a post from her saying that she needed help with something. It wasn't anything serious. She just needed help moving some shit. So I commented and she gave me her address, and I went over there and I helped her. About 2 weeks later, she messaged me saying that she had just crashed her car and that she needed a ride to work. So me being the cuck that I am, I agreed, thinking that I was going to get some pussy out of it, or that she would date me. I don't know what the fuck I was expecting. Like I said, I'm a loser and I don't know how to talk to girls or anything. Anyway, I took her to work and hung out with her. Then she started calling me and asking me to take her to get drugs in again because I'm a fucking retard, and thought that she'd love me and give me pussy if I did all of this shit for her. I did. Then her ex-boyfriend / boyfriend or whatever the fuck he is started coming around, and she told me that she was trying to get away from him and that he abuses her and all kinds of other shit. So I wanted to be the hero and I tried to save her. On the final night we hung out, I did drugs with her, and then she ran me off because the drugs made me sick, and she got back with the same guy that she claimed she was done with. I risked getting killed and going to jail being around this stupid fucking bitch, and in the end, I got nothing out of it. She threw our friendship away and broke my heart, and all I wanted to do was help her. So I matched with this girl on Tinder, Gina. Gina and I went on our first date on January 26th. She knew I was out of a long-term relationship and still maintained occasional contact with my ex, Mary. Gina and I officially start calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend around mid-February. 3 days ago, while I'm in the shower, she goes through my phone and reads old messages between Mary and I. You should probably delete your old messages when you break up with someone. A few casual ones, and a very few affectionate ones from before Gina and I started seeing each other, or even met. Gina packs all of her things and is headed out the door when I get out of the shower with my phone. She texts a bunch of people saying things like, "I'm an asshole," and "Mary is a manipulative bitch." She hacks into my Facebook and makes a post calling Mary a whore and a whole other slew of names, and blocks and unfriends several of my friends. She does a similar thing with Twitter. I get a hold of a coworker's phone and use it to try and contact her and sign back into my Facebook account. Once she realizes I did this, she changes my passwords and my email passwords as well. Eventually, she tells me she wants to talk this out and to meet at my place. I play along so I can get my phone and passwords back. She gives me back my phone and tells me to call Mary and tell her that I'm cutting her out of my life. I get a hold of Mary earlier and warned her something like this might happen. We both have a background in theater, course you do. So we had a very convincing argument over speakerphone so Gina can hear. Yeah, sure. Gina gives me my passwords and I immediately change them. I tell her that she should leave and she doesn't understand why I want her out of my life. She goes home very upset about me breaking up with her over this. Gina starts posting and commenting on Facebook, and I block her. I blocked her on everything, and she begins calling me over and over, not saying anything when I try to pick up the phone. I block her number. I start receiving the same calls over and over from a Colorado number, and I change my number. I also changed the locks on my door in case she took a key. Next day, she makes a Facebook page calling me a piece of shit and saying that Mary is a manipulative cunt. She hacks into my Twitter account. I tell her if she calls me one more time or posts one more thing about anybody, I know I'm calling the police. Yeah, because that'll do something. I get an email saying that my application for a credit card with a bank I do not use has been approved. I call the bank and tell them what's happening, and they put a freeze on the account. Several friends have told me to call the police, and I finally realize enough is enough. The police come and tell me that she is some sort of file with them, and that her name isn't even Gina. It's something completely different. They issue a warning of harassment, and if she tries to contact me again, I should call the police, and she will get arrested. Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Coffinbrood. Today, I am sitting at 1,800 subs. I'm so excited that I've made it to 1,800. So excited and thrilled by all of the warm comments that I get and all of the support. And looks like I will be reaching my goal of making it to 2,000 subs before the end of the year, just as I had hoped for. So if you like my content, please continue to go ahead and share and like and comment and all of that. And, yeah, let's get on with today's stories. This story is going to be a long one. I would understand completely if you don't believe it, because I am a skeptical type of person. Though, if you like creepy stories, bear with me. My sister and I talked about this event not even a week ago, and we both remember the same stuff. She is the most honest person in the world, doesn't take any medications or have any mental problems. This is a true story, believe it or not. This happened 7 years ago. I was 17. She was 21. We were both living with our parents at the time. My room was upstairs, close to my parents', and my sister's room was in the basement. I heard my sister screaming to death one night. I heard my mom rushing downstairs to see what was going on. I stayed awake for a couple of minutes until I heard my mom and my sister coming up the stairs. My sister slept in the loft that night, so I assumed she had a nightmare or something, and I went straight back to sleep. She told me what had happened the next day, and that she felt something while sleeping, a strange feeling. So she opened her eyes. Her bed was right beside her walk-in closet, and a man was in a squat position. He was staring directly at her from that closet. She kept staring at him in fear, and her reflex was obvious to scream and crawl in her bed as far away from that closet until he gradually disappeared. My mom came in right after. She slept for about 5 weeks in the loft, saying that she didn't dream or hallucinate, and she was too scared to ever go back in her room. Sadly, my parents and I had a hard time believing that a so-called ghost, quote-unquote, was in her closet. We thought that she dreamed it and panicked when she woke up. My parents suggested her to seek treatment with a therapist to help her overcome her fear, which she did. My mother always accompanied her to her appointments. After a while, she decided to try sleeping in her room. She asked my mom to sleep with her that night. And as you would guess, she woke up screaming in fear. My mom saw her jumping off of her bed, crawling backwards toward a wall, saying, "Leave me alone! Leave me a fucking alone!" I could hear the screaming downstairs. I didn't understand what my sister yelled, but that's what woke me up, and able to hear my mom screaming to death, "Who's this? Who's this? Leave my daughter alone! Go away!" Gotta admit, I almost shit my pants that night. My sister went back to the loft and I wasn't able to. I didn't sleep really well either. She said the day after that the same guy was staring at her again, and when she jumped off the bed, the man was trying to reach her, chasing her in some way. She said it only stopped when my mom opened the light. I wasn't home when she came to my place, but my mom told me that her friend felt strange right from the doorstep. The medium had to convince her assistant to go inside. She told my mom that she would start with my room on the second floor. They purified the closet, closed the door, purified the room, closed the door, then purified the bathroom, closed the door, etc. I'm not sure what a medium is going to do with a stalker hiding in your closet. Obviously, there is a guy hiding in the closet. This is not a ghost story, just so you know. They did all of their medium stuff, and they left all the rooms in the house and kept my sister's room for the end. The medium felt his presence when she walked into the closet. She asked him to leave passively. She felt that the man liked my sister and the house, that he didn't want to leave and didn't want to scare her either. The medium forced him to leave. Sure she did. My dad is as skeptical as me, and this is why I believe all of this. He told me that he saw the laundry racks moving when she forced him to leave. My mother said the same. We were all ghost non-believers before this, but now, let me tell you, we believe in ghosts. Creepiest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, again, you believe in ghosts, but there was no ghost in your house. There was a man, a living flesh and blood man, hiding in your sister's closet. It wasn't a fucking ghost. When I was 17, my mom got me an apartment because her and her husband were moving across the country, and I was only a few months away from finishing high school, so she gave me the choice to stay. So I'm living alone for the first time, and someone knocks on the door at 9 or 10 p.m. I open it, and this dude is standing there looking high as hell, and he just says, "Are you alone?" I don't even know what I was thinking. I literally told him yes, like some idiot, and he starts pushing on the door to come in. So I start pushing back and put my full weight on the door, and he tried to get his foot in to stop it, but I just kept pushing, and I slammed it shut. Thankfully, this apartment had doors that locked when they shut, because he literally immediately started trying to open it again. I wouldn't have had much time to lock it up. I could hear him mumbling outside the door for a bit afterwards. I never called the cops because CW, sexual assault, After I was raped, I got arrested and was strip searched by 3 cops, so I was too scared to call them. I didn't sleep well for months. I was on a road trip with friends in college to Florida for spring break. We stopped at a gas station in a city about 6 hours from where I lived. Safe to say, I'd never been there before. As I was walking around the store buying snacks, I noticed a man about 40 who was seemingly anxious, looking at me from time to time, almost as if he wanted to say something but was unsure. Me, not afraid to talk to anyone, said a quick, "Hey man," to him. He relaxed, smiled, and called me by my first name. I was stunned. Not only had I never seen this man in my life, but at this time, I went by my middle name. Only a few people knew my actual first name, and not even family called me it. I hid my shock and asked if I knew him, and he told me no. But when I asked him how he knew my name, he could not tell me. He looked almost shaken, as if he was as disturbed as I was. I looked a few minutes and talked to him, and through the conversation, he was able to recall specific details about me, my life, and my family, details and stories that few people would know, like that when I was 8, I had a gerbil that died, or that I have reoccurring dreams of a mall with an arcade in it, including specifics about it. He told me that he just sometimes knows things about people and has no idea how or why, but he knew I was going to be okay. Needless to say, I was very creeped out by this and went out to get my friend so he could see too. Now, he was standing outside the building, and no one left, as I just poked my head out the door. When we went back in, the man had seemingly vanished. I asked the clerk, and he said he did not see any other than me in the store. So, I live in Iraq, and in Mosul specifically. I was 13 years old, and one day my mother sent me to the grocery store to bring home some simple things. And on my way to the store, in the middle of the afternoon, from afar I saw a tall man with a long beard and a shaved mustache. He was a person who looked like an ISIS member. I'm not kidding. They were spread out in Mosul at the time. When I approached the man, he opened the trunk of his car and asked me to help him carry his things. I have never seen this man in my neighborhood, and certainly, like any child, my parents told me not to approach anyone I do not know. I told him that I am in a hurry. He looked at me for a while, then said to me, "Come and help me carry my stuff. I cannot do it alone." He was an adult man and wanted help from a 13-year-old child. I knew that I had to escape from here. When I had a chance, I ran quickly, looking for the nearest neighborhood for help. Then I heard him shutting his car trunk forcefully and shouting, "You, come here!" I ran faster, and I saw one of my neighbors that we had known for years, and told him that someone was chasing me. Then we heard the sound of a car moving fast and around our neighborhood. We didn't call the cops because those motherfuckers wouldn't do their job whatsoever. I am now 18 years old, and I am still wondering what would have happened if I got any closer to this person. Could I have been a victim of some sort of CP or something else? I grew up in a town in the southwest. It was like a mix of mountain, desert, forest, and grassland. I was 17 or 18 back then, and I was hanging out with some friends around a bonfire. It was getting late, and my friends started leaving one by one, around like 2 or 3 a.m. It was just me, a friend, and his girlfriend. We were way past our curfew. It was a very small town, so we just walked places instead of driving. We were going to walk my friend's girlfriend back to her house, which was on the outskirts of town. Now there's a highway that goes through town. It's a pretty long U.S. highway with plenty of traffic during the day, especially since Phoenix is just like 5 hours away from said town. But at night, not anywhere near as busy. We were walking along the highway through downtown when a guy that was hiding behind a building begins following us and is about 20 feet behind us. At first we thought he was a tweaker, but he walked like a sober man. We didn't have much to defend ourselves except 2 small dull pocket knives that couldn't even cut through wool. We kept walking down the dark town, praying in our minds. After a few minutes, he put his arm on my friend's girlfriend's shoulder. He said, "What's a lady like you doing now on the streets at this hour? I can give y'all a ride home." We ran off toward the wilderness, hoping to lose him in the streets. We still heard feet trampling the brush, so we ran back to town. We were running out of breath, and he was still after us. Then a man in a car stopped and asked, "I'm headed to Albuquerque, and my GPS had no signal. Can you tell me how to get there?" As soon as the man pulled over, the creep ran away. Once the dude had left, the man said, "I saw you kids running, and I scared, and I wanted to make sure you were okay." We told him what had happened. He called the cops. He stayed with us until the sheriff's department arrived. Since we were not able to call anyone due to being chased, we immediately called our parents, and they came down. After we told our stories to our parents and the cops, I noticed the man was gone. I wonder what would have happened if the man hadn't been driving down the road, or if it had been someone else who didn't care. What did the man want? If you're reading this, Mr. Albuquerque bound guardian angel, thank you. If you're new, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me out. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back and thank you for subscribing.